Welcome to the Fit Strong Women Over 50 podcast, episode number 167. Hi, I'm Chris. Thank you for joining us today.
And I'm Jill. Chris and I are your hosts for this podcast and the founders of the Becoming Ellie community.
We decided to name our community Becoming Ellie because Ellie was the Norse goddess of aging who beat Thor in a wrestling match. Jill and I thought, hey, we want to be like Ellie, fit and strong.
You can find out more about the Becoming Ellie community and this podcast at our website, becomingellie.com. Ellie is spelled E-L-L-I. Sign up for our newsletter while you're there.
We talk a lot about non-traditional athletes and swimming in today's episode. Let's go to the podcast.
Adina O'Neill is the founder and head coach at Team Be Real, an endurance sport community where athletes of any size, color, identity, age, and ability are empowered to achieve their personal goals.
She helps clients to build confidence, define their goals, go at their own pace, and stand out, despite believing that they might not fit in.
Adina is a marathon swimmer and triathlete who has completed over 100 endurance events, including the Paris Marathon, ice swims, a 13-mile swim, IRONMAN Mont Tremblant, and a 200-mile single-day bike ride.
She enjoys traveling, eating cereal, and listening to live music with her husband, 2 children, and their yellow lab, Mel. Welcome, Adina. It's a pleasure to have you on the show.
Oh, thanks for having me, Chris and Jill. Pleased to be here.
I'm kind of tired just listening all those things you've done.
You don't do them all at once, right?
So there has to be a story here. Can you tell us how you decided to become a coach for non-traditional athletes, and how did you get started on this?
Yeah, I'd love to. So I started way back when I was a little kid. I was found outside most of the time adventuring with one of my brothers. We lived in a very rural area. There wasn't a lot to do. And we liked to go on adventures, go exploring around in nature. There was a lake in our community, and I started swimming at age 5 and always loved the water. And as I grew up, I tried a bunch of different endurance sports and team sports. And, I was never really fast. I was never really what I thought of and what my impression was of a traditional looking athlete. I'm very stocky. I am short and I'm powerful, which these are all fine things. But in a lot of sports, it doesn't always translate to being first or fast. And unfortunately, as we grow up and even as we're older, it seems so important to be first and fast. And the celebration, here we're a couple of months out of the Olympics and we spent so much time celebrating the fastest people in the world and the best precision, and everything is who's the best, the first, the fastest. And when you're growing up and you're not the first and the fastest, you tend to feel a little less than everybody else. And like I said, I was a little bigger than other kids, never a huge kid, but just enough that the doctors always told me I could lose a few pounds, which I probably didn't need to lose a few pounds, but doctors sometimes just have their little, check marks that they follow. And it turned into me just trying whatever I could. And luckily I had parents who always encouraged me and never kind of let anything stop me from trying new things and different things. Even though I wasn't fast or first, I would always have fun. And I kind of became on our local swim team. I was the one who always got the Spirit Award or the biggest effort award, those kinds of things, which are great. Like, it's important to have the cheerleaders and the people who bring the morale for the others who are maybe winning the races. But it was very clear to me from a young age that was not quite as valued as coming in first. It was like a consolation prize. And, over time, as I grew up, I tried some different things. I found rugby in college, which was a different approach. It gave me it was a sport where more body types were valued. I played a position where it was actually beneficial to have a larger body. It provided the stability in the scrum. I almost felt like, wow, yeah, we need you. We need this body type. And so that was kind of the first sport that I really felt like I fit in. And I played rugby for about 10 years. And then when I got married and, then had children, it's kind of hard to fit that into your everyday life. And I started, experimenting with, a friend invited me to run a 5K, which became a 10K. And these were things I never anticipated doing and didn't even think that I could. And little by little, I kind of found this athlete inside that said, wow, like this is kind of cool. Like I didn't think that I could do these things. I never really thought that was for me because I don't have a quote unquote runner's body. But we had a lot of fun doing it. And over time, we just realized that we could make our own goals and show up and have our own fun. And when I started to gain some confidence, I started just trying things that I thought might challenge myself. And I ended up getting into the world of triathlon through swimming. And that was a really fun thing for me because most triathletes do not enjoy to swim. And so to show up to a triathlon as a swimmer, all of a sudden I was the fast one. But you're so fast. And I said, wow, this is kind of neat. Like I'm fast. Now I'd get on the bike and everyone would like pass me and on the run and people would pass me. But to be called the fast swimmer, something that never in my life, I did my first triathlon at 40. So never in 35 years. And I was fast. And it was kind of exciting to hear that. But little by little, I did start to notice that, there weren't a lot of other larger athletes. Unfortunately, in every sport, you have the naysayers and, you try to find gear that fits. And sometimes that's not hard. And people would say things like, well, the gear is really for elite athletes. It's like, okay, well, we're all triathletes. If I want the triathlon gear, why isn't there gear available for me? And it took some digging to find gear. And it took some, it took a lot of courage and perseverance to kind of stick up to that. And so like, well, no, but I want to do this. Whether or not you think I fit in, whether or not I feel like I fit in, like I'm doing this and I'm going to make myself belong and enjoy it because this is really fun. And it took a long time for me to kind of realize that I had this voice. People started to say that I was inspiring, which I had no idea what that meant. I said, okay, whatever. I'm just a regular person. I'm just out here, trying stuff. And as more people said that I was inspiring, and then people would ask me, well, how did you do this? And can you help me do that? And I decided that, well, maybe I could, maybe I can help other people. Maybe I can be a voice. Maybe I can help some people learn about triathlon and really like understand the little pieces that you can't find in most training books. Some of the practical tips, like there's not a lot of training books that tell you, hey, by the way, don't wear underwear under your bike shorts, right? Or you can wear your sports bra under your bathing suit when you swim or under your tri suit, and some of those practical things as you found out along the way that people didn't want to talk about because, well, they wanted to talk about how fast they were and what records they were breaking and all this other stuff. And I looked at it more as let's figure out for anybody who wants to do it, those kind of barriers to getting into the sport. If you are not a natural athlete, a traditional looking athlete, and just kind of, build that belonging and the confidence that you need to kind of get over the overwhelming aspects of triathlon or any other endurance sports. By kind of breaking it down into practical steps I had a talent flex. I taught second grade for 10 years. I was, I know how to break this stuff down and I know what I did and what was important to me. So, I kind of pulled together all the different pieces of those parts of my life, along with the fact that I started out my life as an accountant. So I had some business background and, jumped in. I took an entrepreneurial course and had a friend who was encouraging me along and, had a friend who trusted me to coach them. So I had my first athlete and, little by little, I just became, team Be Real, a play. And the real stands for realistic, empowered, attainable lifestyle.
Oh, wow.
So all the things that kind of an everyday regular person is looking for. It has nothing to do with coming in first, although some people do. And the B is for belonging, because that's something a lot of the women they're mostly women, who I've worked with over the years have mentioned that they felt like they didn't belong. The working moms, the menopausal women, the later in life athletes, they just felt like there wasn't a place for them. Like I was last in gym or I could never run. It's all those things. You didn't belong on a team. And wow, now there's a team that is welcoming me just because I want to do it as a kind of different spin on what it is. And just to really encourage everybody to cross any finish line that they desire.
Excellent.
Wow. That's right. That's great. I have a question. I'm one of those. How did you get to the point that you were able to swim competitively for 13 miles? I mean, to me, 13 miles, that's like a half marathon. How did you get to that point?
Before I answer that, I want to ask you a question back. What do you mean by the word competitively? It's interesting that you use the term competitive.
Well, I think it was a 13-mile swim. It was a race, wasn't it? Or did you just do this on your own?
It was part of an event.
Okay. Event, I assume, is competitive.
Yes. Event, race. And that's kind of why I asked that question. I think most people believe that races and events are competitive, right? That there is that competitive nature to it. And that's one of
they usually time them and, they have awards and things. So,
and there's a whole bunch of people out there who are not even involved in that part of the race, right? And that's me and the people that I work with. I don't think of it as a competitive situation. I'm competitive with myself.
Yeah.
And I'm competing against the distance perhaps, but for me, it's, using the word competitive has a connotation to it that people do think that's like they're out there. Yes, there were people at that race who were trying to win it, and they were very competitive in the race against each other. My competition was against myself. Can I complete? It was supposed to be a 15-mile swim. And as you said, there's a time cutoff. You only have a certain amount of time to complete it. I only managed to complete 13 out of the 15 miles, but hey, I still completed 13 miles.
It's very impressive.
But it is, how you do it is you start small. The very first triathlon I did was a 500-yard open water swim. And you go from a 500-yard open water swim to a mile open water swim, and you build up to 2 miles, and then to a 5K swim, and then a 10K swim, and then a 10-mile swim. And it's, there're steps all along the way, right? Because 13-mile swim, that's overwhelming. Where do you start? You start exactly where you are. Right? Can you swim 25 yards? Can you swim 500 yards? Can you already swim a 5K? You start where you are and you set that roadmap in a realistic fashion. So that way it fits in with your lifestyle, and you just build little by little along the way. I mean, I have to say the first time I did a 5K swim, I had no idea that I would wanted to swim 13 miles or 15.
How long does it take to swim 13 miles? How long did it take you?
I love that. It took me 10 hours.
Wow.
Wow.
It took me 10 hours. There was one other person still swimming. As I mentioned, I got pulled because I was running out of time. There was one other person still swimming. And I don't remember how many people finished before me. And the first finishers maybe, completed the full 15 miles in maybe 7 or 8 hours, something like that. The fast people.
So do you take breaks, or that's just constant swimming?
So you're always in the water. You are always, in an event like this, I had a kayaker. You usually have either a kayaker or a boat. My support person was on a paddleboard, which allowed her to kind of change positions as she did. It was a little unusual. Normally it's someone in a kayak, and she had all of my nutrition. So drinks, snacks, and all that other stuff. And she would help time to make sure that she paid attention to the time. My job was to swim. And every half an hour, she'd like wave my water bottle at me, and I would make sure that I went over, grab the water bottle. There's no holding on to the kayaks or the support boats. And, you tread water or you float, and you have your snacks and your drinks, and then you keep swimming.
Do you find yourself thinking, if I'm ever on a ship that sinks, I'll be in good shape?
I have thought that before. Yes, I have. And I'm actually really good in cold water. So I have that advantage. Ships are often in the middle of the ocean where the water is cold, and, having tolerance for cold water is a separate skill.
Yeah.
This 13-mile swim was done in a lake where the water was about 72 degrees Fahrenheit. And for some people, that's cold. When you're talking 10 hours exposed to 72-degree water and your body is 98.6, some people may need to pull out due to hypothermia at that temperature. I personally like the 60s. That's kind of my sweet spot. I haven't done a swim that long at that temperature, but I have done a 10-kilometer swim at like 59 degrees.
Oh, wow.
So yeah. So I have a little affinity for the cold as well. And so I can combine them together, but they're two very different things that swimmers need to look at.
Back to triathlon, you did the IRONMAN Mont Tremblant.
Yes.
Isn't that the course that goes through the mountains?
It goes. The majority of the course is actually on a highway where there's one long gradual climb on the highway. But there is, like a 2 to 3 mile section where it's kind of like a stepper climb. And of course it's at the end, right? So it's a 56-mile loop. And for mile about 50 to 53, you've got that stepping climb, and then you have to do it again. So, yeah. So yeah, it's a pretty hilly course. It's comparable to Lake Placid. A lot of people are familiar with the Lake Placid. I think the climbs at Lake Placid are a little steeper, and they're more concentrated, and they're in different places, but it's a comparable amount of climbing.
Okay. Impressive.
Yeah. You mentioned a little bit about Team Be Real. Are there a lot of members of the team, and what's the non-traditional athlete? If you can describe that a little bit more.
I always like to say that at Team Be Real, our focus is on real fitness for ordinary people who want to become extraordinary athletes. So we start with the ordinary person. Any ordinary person can be an athlete. And that's kind of the first lesson, I guess, to learn, because most people don't think of themselves as athletes. They consider athletes to be the Olympians, the people, playing on national teams or a high level winning races and things like that. But I like to adopt what Dr. Stacy Sims says, is that if you work out on purpose, you're an athlete. At Team Be Real, I spend a lot of time reminding and encouraging people to call themselves athletes and to celebrate whatever athletic goals they're working towards. Someone, obviously I have a list. We talked about the Ironman, the 10-mile swim, a 13-mile swim, but a 5K run is a wonderful accomplishment. And for some people, like, that is their Ironman or 13-mile swim. Doing a 1-mile swim is a big accomplishment. And we like to take the time to celebrate all those accomplishments. So we have a tight-knit community, largely based here in the Boston area, where we do some in-person things on a somewhat regular basis. There's about 30 people on the core team here in Boston, but also throughout the US. And then we've got, a bunch of other people in the Be Real community who are supporters. They might not be on the core team, or sometimes they'll work with me for some swim evaluation because, like I said, triathletes who are not great at swimming, they're always happy to have a swim coach who understands triathlon. And sometimes they'll, show up just for a race, or they just want to, a water bottle or a visor to be part of the greater community of acceptance and authenticity.
I'm going to follow up on that a bit. So many of our listeners are women over 50, and they certainly, some of them do not consider themselves to be athletes. Certainly not a traditional athlete. And I saw somewhere on your website or whatever that you are the official Band-Aid ripper for people who feel like they don't belong in endurance sports. So when someone says, I'm not a runner, or I'm not an athlete, or I'm too old to do that, what do you say to them? What do you actually do?
Well, it's individual for each person because everybody's coming from a separate place. So the first thing is, we're going to start wherever you are. Okay. So if you say, oh, I'm not a runner. Okay. Well, do you want to be a runner? Yes or no? Well, I'd like to run. Okay. Well, let's talk about that. Have you ever ran? How far have you ran? What do you know about running? And just kind of break down some of the myths about what it means to be a runner. Right? Being a runner does not just mean running the Boston Marathon, or any marathon for that matter. Being a runner doesn't even mean being able to run a 5K. Being a runner doesn't even mean that you run the whole time. Like, all of these shoulds that exist in the endurance world. There are so many, there's a word that I'm looking for in my head that, it's a menopausal brain, words get lost. But there are a lot of, we'll call them traditions, because we were talking about a traditional versus a non-traditional athlete. Out in the universe, there is an idea of what a traditional athlete looks like, what a traditional runner looks like, how they act, how they perform. And we're all comparing ourselves against that traditional identity of a runner, swimmer, cyclist, triathlete, insert your favorite sport. And if we start breaking down what that definition is, who made the definition? Who decided that you're a runner only if you're tall and skinny? Now, part of it is when you look at people who win the marathons and the running race, well, they're lean and they're tend to be kind of tall. It gives them a long stride. They don't have a lot of body weight to carry. Okay, fine. You can still run if you don't look like that. And breaking down that misconception is always where I start. Well, you tell me why you can't. I'm going to turn it around on you and tell you why you can.
Okay.
Right. So there's, someone said, well, I can't run a 5K. I said, okay, well, how far can you run? I said, I don't know. I said, okay, can you walk? Yeah. All right. Well, we'll start there. And then you start where you are. You can walk. Excellent. Let's find out. Maybe you can run 30 seconds. Maybe you can run 5 minutes. We're not going to know until you try. So that was the Band-Aid river that comes from my book, called Forward as a Pace, right? Because you're going to go forward at your own pace, and you're going to rip off that band and go, well, where are we starting? Right? We're not going to hide ourselves. We're not going to try to follow anybody else's path or journey. It's like, where are you? Where do you want to go?
There's the concept of age, like, am I too old to be a runner, or I'm not fast enough? But there's also body issues. Many of us have more weight than a competitive athlete, or we feel like we don't look like a triathlete. Can you talk about that? And how do you help women do endurance sports when they feel like they don't want to be seen in public? Like just wearing a bathing suit or bicycle outfits can be intimidating.
Yeah. So there's two things. The first is the community that we're building at Team Be Real. It is a safe place for women we invite men, but it tends to be something that women seek out more than men. It is a safe place where women can talk to other women, and you can be any size, any color, any identity, any sexual orientation. Like, we are not going to judge. And you can come and you can tell us your fears, your goals, and all the other things. It is a safe place to explore your desire as an athlete. And the most important part that makes this all work is that I am setting the example. Like I said, I'm an advocate. I use that word a lot. I'm also very loud. I am not shy. And, when I was a kid, there was a lot of people who were always trying to quiet me down. And, let me tell you, all my report cards, unsatisfied, needs improvement in self-control, right? But I've got a lot of energy, and now I feel like I'm using my energy for good. I spend all year long in a bathing suit, and you are never going to see me on a Sports Illustrated cover. Well, first of all, because I don't believe that is an appropriate thing to be doing, but yeah, but they don't want my body on their cover. I'm not a swimsuit model body, right? And all of those covers and all the models and all the people you see posing in swimsuits, they've got these very slim, sculpted bodies. And we have been taught over time that that's what you're supposed to look like in a bathing suit. Well, I don't look that way in a bathing suit. I never have, even when I was younger and when I was a time in my life where, when I did the Ironman, I was in the best shape of my life. I still did not look like those women in a bathing suit, but I don't care. Like, I'm swimming, and that's those people's problem. It's not my problem. Swimsuit season is all year long. And the swimming community, the community that I hang out with, I've never heard anyone in the swim community judge anybody else about how they looked in a bathing suit, because we're there to swim. We're not there to judge anyone else. So I take it upon myself to walk the walk, set the example of, well, this is what I'm doing. And some people will see that and say, wow, I'm going to do that. Like, I want to have that confidence. And some people can jump right on and say, yes, I am on board. I am going to wear my swimsuit, or I'm going to run in my sports bra, even if I have a stomach hanging out. And they jump right on because they're like, there's power in numbers. There's comfort there. You've got that confidence that says, okay, someone believes in me and is supporting me. And other people are going to wait. And they say, well, I'm not quite ready to do that. I admire you for doing it. I'm going to stick around and soak some of that in until I'm ready.
Bathing suits are one thing, but you actually found triathlon clothes that fit, because
that is a great question.
Challenging to find. Right.
It is challenging. So one of the things that was important to me for the team was that we have team gear. So because that's part of being a team, right? Like, you're on a team, you've got a jersey, and those are the things that all of these non-traditional athletes, we missed out on because we couldn't make the team. And even in the triathlon world, there are some national teams and you apply to get in. And I hear people all the time like, oh, I hope they take me. I hope they take. I'm over here saying, what are their criteria? Why are they telling people they can't be part of the team? Especially when those big companies, it's all a marketing ploy, right? That's.
I was going to say, as long as you have money, you can usually get in.
Right. That's their marketing technique. They want as many people as possible wearing their kit, putting their name out there and saying, wow, look at who we are. So it leads you to believe, why wouldn't you accept someone onto your team? I don't know the answer to that question, because I accept everybody on our team who is following the rules of acceptance and authenticity and respect. If people are not following those rules and being respectful to themselves or to others, then they're not welcome to stay on the team. But other than that, it's like, you want to be on the team, come be on the team. But there are people.
So you're in the Boston area. Is your whole team on the Boston area, or do you have people all over the country and they can join in online somehow?
Yeah. So we have a private Facebook group, and I'm building up a private membership site on my website as well at the moment. So we currently have, I've got Phoenix, California, North Carolina, Michigan, Maryland. So, there's a core here in the Boston area, and then we've got some people spread out. But to have the gear, I did a lot of research. Unfortunately, a lot of the companies don't even understand what it means to offer plus size gear. They say, oh, we go up. The first company I worked with, we go up to 5X. We can make something as big as you want. But their problem was they're using an algorithm. Once you get past a large, maybe an extra large, but once you get past a large, the sizes were skewed. And people who normally wore an extra large were having to purchase a 2X or even a 3X. And I tend to stir the pot a little bit. On social media, I was in a bike shop, and my daughter, who normally wears a size medium, put on a size 3X bike jersey. She's a triathlete too. Put on a size 3X bike jersey, and she's like, why does 3X fit me comfortably? She normally wears a size medium in street clothes, sometimes small, right? And I normally wear an extra large in street clothes. I couldn't even put the 3X on. And so I put that out there, and the comments coming back from people who understand were extremely supportive. Yes, we need to make a change. This is not right. And there was a whole host of people saying, well, this is, again, that comment, well, it's for real athletes. It's for elite sports performance. This is That's right. I'm out there doing the sports performance, and this does not fit me. But it also doesn't correspond to the sizing that we understand. And for some people, that in and of itself is extremely triggering. Oh, well, I normally wear an extra large. I have to get a 3X doesn't fit. People who have body image issues are looking at that saying, well, that is a judgment on me that I can't fit into their clothing, where I always try to flip it around and say, well, the clothing is the wrong size, or the clothing doesn't fit me, right? And there's those kinds of nuances that it takes a really long time to get comfortable with that. But the difference between I don't fit in the clothing and the clothing doesn't fit me, I'm not the problem. My body size is not the problem. I'm going to go do this no matter what. If your clothing doesn't fit me, I'm going to go somewhere else. And I have worked with a couple of companies that we were able to spend some time and really have the discussions. And I said, when you go into plus size clothing, there's a difference between extra large, which is a standard sizing clothing, and 1X, right? When you look at plus size clothing, it's 1X, 2X, 3X. Well, an extra large and a 1X is not the same cut. And I've worked with, we always invite people, guest speakers on to the team. And I've brought a couple of people who work in the women's clothing, even in performance gear as well. And I brought on a couple of guests to talk to the team members about the differences in clothing sizes, and how they see it. And they're like, well, there is a difference, because if the 1X, 2X, 3X body type needs more material in one direction versus another, it's not just getting longer. It's not just making everything across the board bigger based on a calculation. So a lot of the tri-suit companies are taking that calculation and, the medium, call that the standard, because most people are like, oh, the medium, I'm a medium and it's fine. Well, medium oftentimes is fine. And then the large maybe is okay. Once you get to extra large, people are like, well, I can't fit. It's not the right size anymore.
I have a very expensive set of clothing in my closet that was extra large, and I've never been able to wear it.
Yeah, because it's just a calculation. And even very recently, I was working with, Blue 70. They make their swimsuits and wetsuits. They are the first company that I know of that has developed an Athena style. So in the endurance world, the larger body women, they tend to call Athenas. And they call an Athena style swimsuit, because I'm I'm only 5'2". So I kept buying larger and larger swimsuits, and they kept getting longer and longer and longer. And it didn't help because there wasn't enough material. The straps were too long. So everything was falling out all over the place because I didn't need longer. I just needed more material.
That's frustrating. Yeah.
It's very frustrating. And this is the first company that I've seen. They worked with a bunch of the athletes on the Blue 70 team, including myself. We were tests. We tried the suits on. We gave them our feedback, and they redesigned the suit so that it fit larger bodied women. So now they offer a standard sizing suit and a Athena size suit. And it is the most comfortable swimsuit I've ever put on in my life. They've made a custom suit for Team Be Real. You see it on my website, like the yellow and blue, and it says Be Real across the chest. And all of the members of the team who have tried it first in our first round as testers, they are in love with it. They're like, give me more of this suit. It is the first suit because it was made with that body type in mind.
That's excellent.
Yeah.
So you wrote a book. I'm going to change the topic here a little bit.
Okay.
You wrote a book.
Yes.
Forward is a pace. Real athletes don't fit in. They stand out.
Yes.
I like that.
Thank you.
Tell us about your book and why you wrote it, and guess where we can get it.
Yeah. Well, so it's available on Amazon, and you can find it at forwardisapacebook.com. It's a quick link to find it. I wrote it for all the non-traditional athletes to let them know that they are athletes first and foremost, and they are worthy, and that they can set their own goals and chase their own goals, and that there's support for them. It starts out with my story. I always like to say, from when I went from an awkward athlete to a confident coach. Because sometimes you're like, well, Adina, you have all this confidence and, you are doing this, that, and the other. I didn't start like this. I started like everybody else. Oh my gosh. Can I run a 5K? Like, that's where I started. Like, I'm not running a 5K. I literally had a friend, we like to tease, that she corrupted me. That was what I said. So you're corrupting me to go run these 5Ks. That's where I started. I didn't feel like I fit in. I had no idea what I was doing. And I know how that feels. I've had a whole lifetime of knowing how that feels. And what I've heard more and more since I started my coaching business is that people appreciate that I do understand how it feels. I haven't forgotten how it feels, and they can relate to me. They can talk to me honestly. I mean, be real it's all about being authentic, and there's nothing is off limits. My athletes was, oh, this might be too much information. No, it's not too much information. Like, tell me everything. We talk about underwear and periods and hormones and husbands and anything, because it's all part of who you are as an athlete and how you get there. And so the book was kind of a culmination of me realizing that I kind of made it. That's another thing. We don't like to brag. There was oh, don't brag. And I like to say being proud is not bragging. I'm proud of what I built. I'm proud of the community. I'm proud of every single person who I've come in contact with, whether they've been with us for a month or 4 years. I'm proud of anyone who has just, reached out to me online and said, wow, thanks for showing up. You encouraged me. I felt better today. I just want to tell more people. There's more Adinas out there who are feeling this way and want this community, want to feel like they belong, want to be validated, want to be accepted for who they are. And I want them to know that there's a place. There's a place at Team Be Real. And many people have told me that they've never seen teams like this before. I know there is one other team. I'm going to get the name wrong. It's Team Go Big. They're down in Florida. They have a similar mission. And Coach Kyla and I have had some conversations because we like, well, yeah, we get each other. We're in this, and we collaborate together, right? Like, I'm happy to shout her out. She's got a great team going, right? And as opposed to I'm not going to, give any credit to other teams. No, we need more of these kinds of teams where people are just celebrating everybody and all of their achievements.
I wanted to ask you a question about helping others build their confidence and become endurance athletes, but I want to jump ahead a little bit too about progressing with swimming, from doing laps to swimming miles and becoming an ultra swimmer. How do you help people to keep from getting bored when they're becoming an endurance athlete? And how do you help them manage their thoughts? Because I know that's a challenge for me as in the endurance kind of thing, to just keep going.
Wow. Well, so I have two different approaches. The team is a community. So that is one approach already, right? Have a community where you can share your ideas and your strengths and your struggles and get support and get other ideas. In our communities, people's like, oh my gosh, what on earth are you thinking on a 10-mile swim, right? Or, another athlete will ask them, wow, you just did, you ran 20 miles on a treadmill. How did you do that? Right? So we've got this community where we're sharing all of our ideas. There's no one answer, right? You need a toolbox of a million different tools, and you pull out the different tools at different times. That's something that we discuss together as a community. And you learn from the other athletes. I'm there as the coach to give a coaching perspective, but there's no way on earth that I can have all the answers. And I bring in experts. We talked about Pat from Getting Your Mind in Gear. I know she was a guest recently. Pat has come in twice to talk to our team, and she will come in during one of our motivational meetings and has given our team some mental skills to help them overcome adversity, or some mental skills to help them with their own motivation, or whatever the question may be. So I'll seek out experts to come in and bring other ideas. I'm only one person, so I have the experience that I have, but I have the ability to collaborate and bring in other experiences. So we've got that community. And that's the beauty of the community, because we've got, 30 athletes who have different experiences, and they're going to share those ideas, and, something might be of interest to you. It's like, oh, I'm going to try that. And then separately, I work one-on-one with athletes. I do private coaching. So for swimming or for triathlon, because those are my expertise. I do coach some runners who do like their first 5K or their first 10K. Like that first of something is kind of a sweet spot for me. But if I have someone who wants to, qualify for Boston, I'm going to send them off to my running coach friends. Like, that's not my forte. Your first marathon that you just want to finish, I got you. Because that first one of can I finish? It's a mindset. It's a different mindset. And that's where my mindset is and my experience. And so when I work with someone individually, we work very closely. Making connections is first and foremost. And I will connect with an athlete and get to know them, and more than just their statistics. Almost more importantly, I like to talk about how you're thinking, how you're feeling, what's going on in your life. With women, there's a lot of talk about menstrual cycles. That is an important topic. And you bring all of that together along with the training and the statistics. And that's how you build. And you build trust. Or I build trust within the athlete so that they say, okay, well, I can tell Adina anything. She's not going to judge me. She's not going to think I'm stupid. And she's going to use it to help me. And that then allows the athlete to try new things and experiment and have discussions about, what kind of things are we going to try? I, as the coach, need to know where the anxiety or stress lies and comes from to help give them different strategies. Because you can't look at someone and say, like, just go do it, just go do it. That works for some people, but someone who is nervous, just go do it. Like, that may not work for them. Some other people say, hey, you know what? That's okay. Take a day off and let's go back and adjust it tomorrow. Like, it depends on their goals, their approach, their personality. There's so many factors. And I know we were chatting quickly before we mentioned something about AI before we started talking today. And, many coaches are nervous about AI and what that's going to do to coaching.
All right.
I'm not concerned, because like 10% of what I do is building the training plan. right? The personal interaction and understanding, like AI is not going to be able to, as far as I know at the moment, I'm not an AI expert, but from what I understand, I mean, AI is not yet at a point where it's going to have like an actual conversation and compassion and understand people's lives.
How do you train people remotely on swimming? I mean, there's that whole, I assume normally you would look at something and like help them improve their swimming form. How do you do that?
It is surprisingly more effective than you would think. Normally, obviously with a swim, you're going to get into a pool with someone so you can see what they're doing and give them real-time corrections. I always recommend that. Like if you can find a swim coach in your area who can help you, that is the best way to do it. However, I've had some pretty good success. So some of the triathletes I work with that are in other places, for example, I have one athlete now I'm working with who's in California. And I'm not flying to California. I mean, hey, if she wants to fly me to California, I'd love to go fly to California and do a swim lesson for her, but it's not economical. So I instruct her how to get videos of her swimming, and she sends me videos, and I'm able to analyze her swim through the videos. And then we hop on a Zoom and we talk about her swim form. And a lot of the technique can be practiced on dry land before you get in the water. So we'll go through the different drills. So the timeline is she'll send me a video. I will review it. I will pick out the areas that we're going to work on first and send her the drills that will help her. And then we'll get on a Zoom and I'll demonstrate the drills and have her show me them, and we'll do them on land on Zoom. And so that way I can do some corrections through video to be able to get her started. I also am building a bank of support videos of me doing the drills in water. So that way there is a support as well. So it's like, okay, well, I saw Adina do that. Sometimes it helps to see it actually in the water. So I'm building my database of support videos. So that way then you can see what it looks like in the water as well, with like a commentary that walks you through it. And then I have them go back and do the drills and have somebody video the drill. So that way I can see them doing the drills and say, okay, yep, you got it or you didn't. So it's a little slower process than if you're in person. Let's get your arm this way. Your elbow has to be up a little higher. There's a little bit, it's snail mail versus instant messaging.
I'd like to know just a little bit more about this ice swimming that you did. What is ice swimming and why do you do it?
So an ice swim, so as with everything in endurance sports, everything has a specific definition, and if it's official or things like that. I'm not as much of a stickler as I used to be about officialness, right? So an ice swim is officially anything when you're swimming under 41 degrees Fahrenheit, which I think it's 5 Celsius. And, to make something official, you generally have people from the Ice Swim Association who are there to take temperatures and all this other stuff. That's not important to me. I don't need it. I don't need someone else to tell me that the water was cold and I swam in it. That's for me. If my watch said it was 41 and I swam in it, that is enough for me. Some people like that official. Well, I got an official document that says I actually did it. If that's important, then you have to contact those organizations to what they call ratify the swims. Same thing with marathon swimming. There's a lot of specific rules. But ice swimming, anytime you swim in water that is 41 degrees or colder, it is considered an ice swim because it's very cold. And I actually personally got started ice swimming during the pandemic because all the pools were closed. And I really missed swimming. And I had a couple of friends who had, or they weren't friends at the time, they are now. I met through a swimming Facebook group. And they had purchased some thermal wetsuits and we're out swimming in April, which in the Boston area, April, the water is cold. It's in the 40s for sure. And I thought that on one hand, I was like, they're totally crazy. And on the other hand, I said, well, if they're doing it, why can't I? And I missed the pool and I said, I'm going to take a shot at it. And if I like it, I can be back in the water. And if I don't like it, I've got a nice toasty wetsuit that I can swim a little later in the season than I normally do. The first few times I did it, it was the strangest thing. It's just like, I cannot, it was all that. I can't believe I'm doing it, putting my body in this cold water. And then you do it and you're like, I actually just did that. At the time I was still doing triathlons and it's like, well, I have to keep up with my swimming, but it evolved into a different challenge. I said, wow, okay, so I swam from April. Now we swam all through the summer like normal. And then it started getting colder again, October. I was like, wow, I've never swam in November. I wonder if I can swim in November. And we did. I wonder if I can swim in December. And we did. So, oh, well, January 1st, I used to totally poo-poo all the people doing those polar plunges.
Yeah, that's what I was just thinking about. Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I was one of those. I was like, why on earth are you jumping in the water on January 1st? It is way too cold. That made no sense to me. And here I was. I said, well, it's January.
Instead, you're swimming around.
I was like, we did December. Like, why not January? And then by that time I said, well, all I have to do is swim February and March. And I swam the whole year outside. And I mean, we were swimming like once or twice in the month. There was not a lot of swimming and it wasn't very far the colder the water got, but it was really exciting. And it was a sense of accomplishment. It was something that I didn't know I could do. And here I was doing it. And since that time, I have ditched my wetsuit. I no longer wear a wetsuit. I still swim year round in Boston.
Oh, wow.
The first season I was covered in head to toe with neoprene. The second season I stopped wearing a wetsuit and just wore like the hat, the thermal gloves and booties and a cap. And now I swim just in a swimsuit. And I like to say the reason I do it, the why is there is for those in the height of the winter, when you're talking maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes of swimming time, you are so in tune with what's happening for your own self. Like you are so in the moment and so focused on your body and what's happening within your body to know if you are safe, because it is an extreme sport and you do need to consider hypothermia as a real thing. But you're just, it's that inward hyper focused on just your body and being in tune with your body and understanding what's going on at that moment and how your brain is getting your body to do something that maybe does not make logical sense. It doesn't sound so reasonable.
Well, I was just thinking about when you work with your triathlete clients, how do you help them to get into the open water swimming to deal with all of that? Learning to swim in open water involves, different skills than swimming laps in a pool.
For sure. There's a lot that you can do in a pool to prepare. And being a strong pool swimmer is the best preparation for going out into your first open water swim. Anybody who's local, I try to invite them. We have a group that swims every Sunday down at the ocean, and I always invite people there. I've done a couple of swim clinics, and otherwise there's a lot of open water swim groups. So I always encourage people, if they're not local, to find an open water swim group that has someone who can just, keep an eye on you and tell you about the place you're swimming in. Because every swim spot is different. I know Nantasket Beach in Hull, Massachusetts so well, but I went out to swim in La Jolla in California with a friend of mine, and I was confused. I mean, it's very different. I didn't know where we're going. I don't know the area. I don't know the currents. I don't know the marine life. I don't know. It is an unfamiliar spot. And so I went with someone who told me, okay, we get in here, we swim over here. These are the safe space. Don't go that way. There's a lot of, each swim spot has its own kind of set of rules. And so I always encourage people, never go alone. Try to go with someone who knows the spot you're going to swim in, and stay close to shore. And the first thing, those are the three best pieces of advice for your first swim. Don't go alone. Find someone who knows, the area. Even at a minimum, ask a lifeguard. And, and if you're going to have someone on the shore versus in the water with you, and just stay close to the shore so you can get out easily. If you can swim and water up to your waist, right? So there's no need to go over your head when you're just getting used to a spot.
So if someone comes to you and they're a runner or a cyclist or a swimmer and they want to include the other sports to become a triathlete, how do you recommend that they add those in?
So I have a couple of different programs that I use to help people. I have a group program that kind of teaches you how to start triathlon training. But the very simple answer is you start small, all right? 1 swim, 1 bike, 1 run a week. Get used to doing that. Whatever distance feels comfortable for you, however you are, wherever you're at to begin with. And 1 swim, 1 bike, 1 run a week, build some consistency. I always encourage people to keep strength training and 1 day a week of rest, because your body needs to rest. It's very easy to get caught up in, this is so cool. I'm so amazing. I never knew I could do this. I don't need to rest. Yes, you do. Yes, you do. You do need to rest because your body needs time to recover. So you can go back next week and do 1 swim, 1 bike, and 1 run. Your desire is going to ramp up faster than your body's capability. So it's very easy to let that excitement push you harder than is safe for your body. Your body might be capable of doing those things, but you don't want to ramp up mileage and distance too quickly, even if you're like, but I can do it. Well, that doesn't mean it's a good approach. And the other option is work with a coach who is going to build a plan for you. That's something that I do, and that's a lot of the remote coaching that I do, even more so than the swim analyses. Is I build plans. So people that say, well, how much should I do each week? How much should I increase? When do I rest? How much do I rest? What does it actually mean to rest? Where do I fit strength training in? Hey, what if I actually have a life and need to go to work and, take care of children or elderly parents, or I like to go skiing? How do you fit all that stuff in? It's a puzzle. It's a fun puzzle. I think most coaches, triathlon coaches, enjoy the puzzle. All right, how are we going to fit all this stuff in? I work with clients, and I will pull together a training schedule based on their own personal situation and their goals. So that way it makes a realistic approach to get from where they are to where they want to be.
Yes, that makes sense. So you have a typical workout week for your clients. And what kind of cross trainings do you recommend? I mean, you're doing the biking, the swimming, the running in a way that feels like cross training, but that's the actual training. So
Sure.
Can you describe what you suggest?
So when people are if they're just swimming, I always say the best cross training is Pilates. And actually that's great for triathletes as well, because it's working your core. And even as a cyclist and a runner, I'm like, we all need core strength. So Pilates is one of the best. If you're going to add one thing in, I highly recommend Pilates. Some Pilates programs also incorporate some stretching, which when you're swimming, biking, or running, you need that too. And many triathletes don't like to do that. Triathletes and endurance athletes like that active part. We want to be out swimming or biking or running, and to calm down and do yoga or Pilates. Personally, it's boring to me. I don't enjoy it. I know it's helpful, but I don't enjoy it. And strength training. Strength training comes in a variety of fashions. You can do body weight strength training. You can strength train big muscles, small muscles. I encourage every endurance athlete to establish a relationship with a physical therapist. I have a PT who I've worked with for many, many years. And, the first time I worked with them was when I was injured, and they helped in the recuperation process. But now he knows me. If I'm feeling kind of off, wow, my swimming feels weird, I can send him an email and say, hey, this happened to me. I felt like this. And he's like, oh, do this exercise and this exercise for a little while. It sounds like you need this shoulder exercise to kind of, balance it out. Or I might go in and have a consultation and they'll do some evaluations to see where you're imbalanced and what muscle groups you need to work on to help that out. So a PT is huge. Women, as we're getting older, the recommendation is lifting heavy stuff. I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on this one. LHS, lift heavy shit is what they say. And we need that for our bone strength. And it's a different approach. The great thing about lifting heavy is they're shorter sessions, right? It's not three sets of 8 to 12 reps. You're looking for like 3 to 5 reps. And I'm not a personal trainer. So, I defer to my strength coach and other trainers that I know who work with triathletes to get advice and guidance along that way. But lifting heavy, when, there's a time and place, you got to fit it in the right place. You're not going to lift heavy when, in peak season, a month out of a race. But right now, when, we're in the Northeast, and most people are not having races, this is a great time to get in the gym, lift some heavy weights and build that muscle. And then you'll have plenty of time to work on your sport when in another training block.
Okay. And somewhere plyometrics.
Yes.
What are they? And, why should we be doing them?
That's another good, that's the thing, right? You get down this rabbit hole of now we've got swimming, biking, running, plyometrics, Pilates, yoga, strength training, and balancing them. You can't do them all the time. And there's really a method to where you fit them in your different training programs. But plyometrics is a great one. Plyometrics very basically is jumping. It's getting that impact. And that's another thing actually that's recommended for women as they age because it sounds counterintuitive, because you want the impact on your bones actually helps strengthen them. And plyometrics can be easy as skipping. That's my favorite plyometrics. And I like every now and then I'll throw on my, Instagram. I'll just, it's like, I did plyometrics today and it's a picture of me skipping. That is plyometrics. It's jumping. It's jumping on one foot. That actually was the topic of our guest came this past month to Team Be Real, Adam Teray, who's a coach with Lucid Motion out in California. And he gave us a whole presentation on plyometrics and talked to us about, jumping on 2 feet, jumping on 1 foot, using it for stability, going back and forth and side to side. And there's so many different, ways that you can incorporate it into your training. It's not as scary as looking at those people jumping up on 40-inch boxes, right? When people say plyometrics, that's often what they think of.
Right.
40-inch box. Yeah. And, that's a lot of what I do is translating what we're seeing the elite athletes do to what an everyday regular person can do, where you can start. How do I do that in my world?
I noticed on your website that you host an indoor Saturday bike ride from December to March. Can you tell us more about that? Can anyone with an indoor bike join the ride? And is this something different than Zwift?
It is different than Zwift. So Zwift is a membership platform, and you have to have what they call a smart trainer to ride on Zwift. I don't have Zwift. I don't have a smart trainer. I just have a trainer that I put my bike on and I ride, and I use my Zoom account and I invite people who are coming to ride with us, and we chit chat on Zoom while we ride our bikes in the winter.
Oh, that's nice.
Because riding your bike in the winter inside, in my opinion, is not fun. It's, the first couple of seasons I did, I was like, wow, this is cool. Cause it was new. Like, oh, look at me. I rode my bike 2 hours inside. Now I'm like, I do not want to ride my bike 2 hours inside. Definitely not on my own. So I started doing it within our team. We would have, sometime in the winter, we'll have Wednesday workouts that are just for the team. And we'll meet on Zoom, and that's a little less organized. But then the Saturday workout is actually part of a challenge called the Winter Warrior Challenge that I organize. Basically, it's a challenge to all winter long stay committed to your own personal goals. You choose a goal based on time, because for slower athletes, when you look at these goals like, oh, well, we're going to have a goal to run a certain amount of miles or bike a certain amount of miles, or if you're a swimmer, you're never going to reach those miles because it takes a lot of miles to catch up, and swimming miles takes a lot longer. So we have a time frame. I say, okay, well, I have a goal that this winter I want to try to exercise for 50 hours. And it sounds like a lot, right? And that is a lot. I don't remember off the top of my head. I'm forgetting what the calculation is, but it's like 20 minutes a day turns out to like 50 hours. I think that's it. Don't quote me on that. I might have to update you on what the actual calculations are. But you can say, I'm going to work out 25 hours for the winter, or 50 hours, or 75 or 100. So you have this time. So 20 minutes every day, I'm going to walk, or I'm going to ride my bike, or whatever it is. And so I will get on my bike, and anyone who's part of the challenge that has a bike can come and ride the bike with us on Saturday mornings. And if you're not part of the challenge, you can drop in. The first drop in is always free because, people are like, what's going on? What does this even mean? And I like people to know what they're getting into. And then it's a $10 drop-in fee because I will provide you with a workout that you can either follow the workout that we're doing, or there's a couple of people who come who are on Zwift or there are more like bike platforms than just Zwift. And they'll come, and they're following their own workout. When they're following their workout, I'm following my workout. Someone else is following a different workout, or I'm leading the workout for the day that I've shared. And at the same time, we're all chit-chatting, which you very rarely get to do on a bike.
Right.
Because if you're outside on a bike in the road, you can't talk.
Right.
Have to pay attention to cars.
So the Winter Warrior Challenge, what is that? Can you, so the bike riding is part of it, but
it's part of it. Yeah. So it's an online challenge. And it's actually it is not live yet. Right now we have a wait list. And you can, on the events page on the website, you can get on the wait list. It's going to be opening for registration soon. Although by the time this recording goes out, it should be available. But as the time we're recording it, there's a wait list. And the general idea is you pick a goal, and then you aim for your goal in whatever activities you want to do. Whatever it is that you want to stay active, you decide, you set your goal, and you decide which activities you're doing, because the best way to stay active and stay committed to what you're doing is something that you enjoy. Right. So I don't want to tell you, oh, you have to swim, or you have to bike, or you have to run. Last year we had someone who walked. My mom one year did it, and she did it. This was a September one. She did a gardening challenge. She gardened 20 minutes every day. I was like, that's great. Whatever activity is good for you. Maybe you like to rock climb. Maybe you want to ski, like whatever it is. And you can do all of them. You add up the time that you're exercising. It's all through a platform on Run Sign Up, and you can input your time, and then you get as you hit the milestones, you'll get a little virtual sticker, it says, oh, I hit I think it's 25 hours is the snowball milestone, and then 50 hours is the igloo milestone. And it's a fun way to, stay committed to what you're doing and, keep moving forward. And, when, sometimes the winter is tough.
Yeah. And is this something that our listeners could participate in?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. I will hook you up. We can make I can get you a discount code.
Oh, excellent.
So that way, yeah, I'll get a discount code. So anybody listening, I like to share the wealth. We'll give you a discount code so that way everybody listening can get $10 off the entry fee.
Nice. Thank you. That would be great.
Oh, my pleasure.
And so you have these challenges. What other services do you offer? The online swim coaching and
online swim coaching, in-person swim coaching, training plans for swim and triathlon. And then I have a couple of different events. The Winter Warrior Challenge. We just finished a September streak. So we start, it's a very popular endurance speak to do a streak where you do one thing every day in a row. I started the September streak 3 years ago, and I walked 1 mile a day and for 30 days, and I haven't stopped. So I'm on day 1,155 that I've walked a mile every day.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah. And it's very, I don't want to break that streak. Like at this point, I'm like, I'm going to walk a mile every day.
Rain, snow, doesn't matter.
That's right. That's right. So we always do the September streak, and I have a virtual triathlon that I've done in the past. That may be changing a little bit. So, I'm going to hold off on giving too many details, but I have organized a virtual triathlon where you can get a training plan, and it tells you how to get started if you want to do your first triathlon kind of on your own in a self-supported version. And then I've got some courses that I'm building. So this is the time of the year where everything is where I get to do the fun stuff behind the scenes. And really just, I'm always open to hearing what people need. I've done, goal setting workshops. I do motivational speaking. I've been to, since the book has come out, I've had a couple of opportunities where I spoke at the library. I spoke at a 55 and older community. I like to encourage people to be their own selves, to be real. I like to say, have fun, be real, and keep moving forward, right? That's what it's all about. To find where you're at, and, don't let anything stop you from whatever's in your heart, and just, you've got the ability to do it, and everything you do is worth celebrating. So decide what it is. And, if you need someone to guide you along or cheer for you along the way, that's what I enjoy.
If our listeners want to find you online, where should they go?
So my website, is the best place to find me. The website is teambereal.com. So the word team, the letter BREAL.com. You can find, head over to the contact page and you can send me a message. You can also get a 20-minute conversation with me. I call it a connection call. If you don't know what you want to do with your life, and you want to take 20 minutes to try to figure out what that means, please connect with me. And otherwise, you can find me on Instagram at Adina O'Neill Real Fitness.
Nice.
I hang out there a lot.
We'll put those links in our show notes as well.
Great. Thank you.
Thanks so much for talking with us today. We really appreciate it. And we'll talk again soon.
Oh, well, thanks so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Wow, that was helpful. I really enjoyed listening to Adina. She had some great ideas there, especially for someone who's just trying to do their first big race and they wonder, can I even finish? I liked how she kind of laid out. She's the kind of coach to get if you're wondering, can I even finish this?
Well, yeah. And that you don't have to be you're not competing with everyone else. You may be competing with yourself, but your goal doesn't have to be, I'm going to win, because the odds are you aren't going to win.
Well, these races, how many people enter and how many people win? I mean, sometimes it gets lost in the idea of, being out there is a lot of the goal. And a lot of people just stay on the couch. They don't go in a race, because of the intimidation.
Well, and races can be a lot of fun. So I think worth doing without putting a lot of pressure on yourself.
Yeah, especially if you want to do endurance things. I mean, having the support of the people cheering, the tables with water, the different things, the music. It's very exciting to do that. It can really give you a boost when you're working towards a goal.
Absolutely. Still marveling, though, at the swimming 13 miles or 15 miles. That's just beyond what I can even imagine. But again, she said, if you're going to do something like that, you still start small.
Right.
Baby steps.
Baby steps. And she had some pretty cool merchandise, too. I like the idea of bathing suits that actually fit, especially when you're trying to. That
whole wetsuit thing is absolutely amazing. So I really like that she got someone to actually make a swimsuit or a wetsuit that women can wear.
Right. Exactly.
The other thing I know around here, at least, it can be challenging to find a swim coach. So I thought that what she was saying about working with Adina remotely might be a good idea if you can't find someone locally. I mean, she did say if you have someone available, they can help you immediately with form, but she's able to do that if necessary.
Yeah. And she coaches you through how to take the video to show what your stroke actually looks like so she can give you good feedback. So cool stuff.
That was an interesting thing. I know that many people don't have access to a real swim coach. So
right. Yeah. Cool things.
So also, Adina, well, she mentioned this when we were talking to her, but she has supplied us with a $10 discount code for her Winter Warrior Challenge. If you're interested, just use Ellie10. So that is ELLI and then the number 10 digits, 10. No space, and to, use that. So it's Ellie10 to get your listener discount. Just go to the Team Be Real website on her events page, and you can use that code.
Yeah, that's great. And if you're listening, let Jill and me know if you have some thoughts on our talk with Adina or how you're doing on your fitness journey.
Absolutely. We love to hear from you. You can leave us a message at becomingellie.com. You can also find us as Becoming Ellie on Facebook, Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube, and LinkedIn.
And if you enjoyed today's podcast, I think you will also like the Older Women and Friends podcast, where Jane Leader talks with guests about the joys and challenges of being an older woman. You can find her at her website, www.janeleader.net. And leader is spelled LEDER.
So janeleader.net.
Yes.
Okay, great. It was great talking with you today, Chris. I'm looking forward to our next episode of the Fit Strong Women Over 50 podcast.
I am too. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.